Good morning. Welcome to How Are We Here, my little channel where I can share with you all the neat things I read, watch, or look up on the interwebs. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we are here according to the Sumerians and the Eridu Genesis. So sit back and let me tell you a tale. In my searches for old legends of creation, I came across the Sumerian creation story from the Eridu Genesis. Pieced together from a few different sources, one from 1600 BCE, before Common Era, the Eridu Genesis gives us another tale from Mesopotamia. So let's see what has been pieced together and how the Sumerians thought we got here. Unfortunately, we start out in a bad spot. The tale's first 36 lines are missing, but what can be inferred tells us that after the universe was born from the chaotic waters, after the gods had arisen, Anu, Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursag, these four gods crafted the black-haired people, the Sumerians. They were crafted and cultivated from the clay of the earth. They then made animals, and they had them multiply everywhere. And they moved the herds of the four-legged animals. They sent them to the plains. They were sent there for the humans to tend to. After approximately another 32 missing lines, one of the gods, maybe Ninhursag, oversaw the vagrant humans' labor. She directed them to build strong foundations. She or they had the people build bricks for cities. They had them lay those bricks in the holy places. There, divine rites could be held. Divination could be performed. The first city, the oldest at the time, Eridu, was given to Enki, the leader. Babtabira was given to the mistress of wisdom, Larak to Babslug. Zimbur was given to Uttu, the hero. Surapad to Nunlil, wife of Enlil. After the cities were given names and distributed amongst the gods, the rivers were filled with water. And this started the tradition of every city having its own patron god, for that city to worship and for that city to listen to. And after another 34 missing lines, we find out that Enlil and Anu were greatly annoyed with humankind. Humans were a rowdy and noisy bunch. They especially kept Enlil from his sleep. So Enlil and Anu, two of the four leaders of the Sumerian pantheon, they decided to destroy mankind, to wipe them from Earth. How? How, you may ask? Well, with a flood. Enlil and Anu, they would make all the other gods swear a vow not to inform the humans of what was to come. A vow made on Enlil and Anu, making it even more binding. But Enki, even though he made the vow, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He would speak to a wall. Enki, he would go to a certain temple. He would tell the wall, "Wall, standing at my left side, side wall, I will speak words to you. Take heed of my words. Pay attention to my instructions. A flood will sweep over the world. A decision that the seed of mankind is to be destroyed has been made. The verdict, the word of the divine assembly, it cannot be revoked. The order was announced by Anu and Enlil, and it cannot be overturned." And why was Enki telling a wall to do this, you might be asking yourself? Because on the other side of that wall was a devout priest, a humble man, an obedient man, a king of one of the cities. The city's name was Shurappak, and this king ruled from around 2900 BCE. His name, it was Zidsura. More lines are missing here. These lines probably detail the creation of this gigantic boat and what else Zidsura needed to do. Now, we do have some details of Zidsura riding out a 7-day and 7-night storm that raged out upon the world. Legend has it, all the windstorms and gales rose together, and the flood swept over the land. After the flood had swept over the land, and the waves and windstorms had rocked the huge boat for 7 days and 7 nights, with his family and a couple of every animal on the boat, they persevered. The seas, they did quiet. The storm unleashed by the gods had subsided. As the boat floated on the calmer seas, Uta, the hero, Uta, the sun god, appeared. Zidsura, he broke a hole into the side of his boat by drilling, and he let Uta's rays fill his boat. Zitzra, the king, he prostrated himself before A.T.T. The king sacrificed an ox and offered many sheep as well. And we run into about 33 more missing lines. When Zitzra found himself before Enlil and Anu, and as the animals they left the boat and stepped upon the now dry land, the king found that Enlil and Anu that they had changed their minds. And in thanks for saving the gods' creations, for saving the animals and the seed of mankind, Zitzra was offered the gift of breath eternal. He was allowed to live in paradise. That paradise was known as Dimla, the land where the sun rises. Experts, they believe the tale continued for another 39 lines, but that content was lost, and I find that so sad. It probably went on to detail what came next, what Zitzra, the gods, and all the animals upon the boat, how they dispersed. Some stories from Sumerian cultures, it stated that humans had long lives before the flood, that they were seen as the gods' partners, as stewards of the land for the gods. But after the flood, after Anu and Enlil's annoyance, the lifespans were drastically shortened. Now, they were seen less than, only worth the worship and the sacrifices that could be given in the names of the gods. It kind of sucks that there are so many missing lines from this creation story. The Sumerian creation flood story, it's considered to be the first written account of a worldwide flood, due to divine intervention. The Eridu Genesis also had lists of the hereditary lines of the kings, often going back to those patron gods. It's often thought to be that those kings had their way to declare their divine right to rule. Chunks of that are missing, but as you heard earlier, some cities were still listed. One of the first quick synopses of the Eridu Genesis that I had read, it described this Mesopotamian creation myth as, it begins with the creation of the gods, and Enki, the god of wisdom, created a home for them on earth. Enki then created humans out of clay and gave them the task of serving the gods. Humans, they became too numerous and they became too noisy, and as time passed, they annoyed the gods greatly. So, the gods decided to send a flood to destroy humanity. But Enki, he warned one man, Zasudra, of the impending disaster and instructed Zasudra to build a boat and save himself and his family. And like some of the other creation stories that I've told you about on this channel, this one had multiple different versions. I had about 3 sources that the Eridu Genesis is compiled by, 3 different artifacts. But then you've got other stories that kind of refer back to parts of the Eridu Genesis. So it's gotten compiled into about 3 to 4 different, I'd say, mainstream interpretations. I found 4. So I gave you what I could of the 3 combined into one cohesive story, and I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, the final little part of my wrap up for the Sumerian creation slash flood story has to, of course, touch upon the fact that it's a flood story. There's many flood stories in ancient cultures and ancient religions. But this one, there's some modern scholars that believe that the Sumerian deluge story corresponds to localized river flooding at Shurapak. The modern name is Tel Farah in Iraq. We talked about Shurapak a little bit earlier. That's the city I think that Zitzura was king over. And there's some various other cities as far north as Kish over there in the Middle East that has a layer of river sediments that can be radiocarbon dated to about 2900 BCE. So even with flood evidence showing a disruption in the settlement, polychrome pottery was also discovered in the area from about 3000 to 2900 BCE, radiocarbon dated. It was discovered immediately below this Shurapak flood stratum. None of this evidence can really verify the historical writings and lineages of the kings and gods. So we just have to accept that this is another creation story, that there is really no hard evidence for it being historical fact, but it is a very neat creation story. Lining up a little bit with the gods of the Enuma Elish, these 2 historical accounts come from relatively the same amount of time, from the same people in Mesopotamia, and I think that is just an awesome story to delve into. Thanks for watching or listening. Please take some time out and do the whole YouTube thing. Like if you liked it, comment your thoughts or questions below, share with your friends, and subscribe. All of that could allow me to defeat the YouTube algorithm and be seen by many more people. Alright, if you enjoyed hearing how the ancient Sumerians thought we got here, maybe you'll enjoy hearing other creation stories. I do have a couple other tales on the channel, so please take a view if you want. TLDR, I'm just some guy on the YouTube who did some reading on an interesting topic and shared it the best I could. Thank you all again. Have a great day, and please take care and keep safe.